Hey, afternoon everybody. I'm going to sweat some of these guards on. I've already done 3 of them. I haven't cleaned one of them up, so we'll switch them out once we get this one sweated on. This is liable to turn out like a soup sandwich, me trying to do it live, because I'm not the best at this, ever was. You just really never know how this is going to turn out. I've seen great makers mess them up, that they have that they've been doing it for 20 years, but we're going to give it a shot, do it live, that way everybody can see it, and we will see how it turns out. The first couple of things you got to have silver solder. I don't have a whole lot left, but I've got a piece big enough to do it. Getting it this close to the torch is going to be a lot of fun. You have to have a flux. Now, this is the flux I use. You've got to remember that this is an acid type deal. So when you're done and you've done all this, before you really want to fit your handles, or before you really want to fit your handles and make them solid, you have to boil these in kind of a hot water solution to get this stuff out. You want to make sure it gets, because it will kind of creep out down, because it can't come up, but it will creep down and it will mess your stuff up, especially if you're using a wood or a stag or anything. These are kind of more of my hunter specials. They're going to be a carbon fiber or a G10, even maybe an orange G10 for people who, these are kind of my hunter specials that I've really just started doing. I'm going to have 3 different models of them. But anyway, this is what we're going to do. So the first thing you got to do, you got to clean your knife off, get you some acetone, some lacquer thinner, really clean this out and get it down into these holes that you've got left on this. Now, the next thing is you want to get one of your rods, and I've got a couple of rods that you're going to need to use. I know this sounds crazy, but this is just a brass rod that has been sharpened down, kind of really fine. I've got another one that's nickel silver that's just sharpened down. The only reason I've got this one is it's just smaller. I'll show you how to do that when we get that far. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to get this solution, and you're just kind of going to put it around your guard, get it down inside your guard. You want this just to be like you're sweating a pipe on. You want to kind of get that stuff, you want to get that heat down here, and you want to try to make it pull itself down in here. And that's really what you're shooting for. But now we got the flux on it. Now this is where the hairy part, that it may not go very well for me on video, but we're going to take our torch. We're going to start underneath. Get it down low. Try not to set my phone on fire. And what I like to do is, after I get it kind of started getting hot, I like to get one of the little bubbles of solder that I've already kind of burnt off, and I don't even care where it goes. I just want to get it up there so I know that I finally started getting it hot before I add new solder. It's starting to get hot now. See the acid starting to bubble. Don't get your face right over top of it for sure. I don't know if that acid's bad, but it probably can't be good. Okay, see that? It started to try to melt a little bit. Now that we got that to melt a little bit, we want to go ahead and get some new solder and get it started down in there. Oh, I got too big a piece. But we'll work with that. That's no problem. Okay, now you're going to get your one of your little brass rods. You're going to kind of start spreading that through here, and it's an ugly looking process, and no matter how you do it, it's kind of ugly. You want to just kind of smear that around, and if you've got a whole bunch, try to transfer some of it over to the sides. Once you get really far along, you can just flick it off. That's always a good thing to do. If you start having trouble with it, just flick some of it off. That's how I wind up going and getting the spares when I'm doing it. I like to pick up this extra and get it in there. There's no reason really not to. So I know you can't see the other side, but the other side looks just like this one so far. It's not really spread on this side like the other one yet, but get it nice and hot, we will get it to that. Now it's starting to go. I'm going to add just a little bit more flux on this side while I've done a little bit, and it makes the stuff shrink up a little bit. That cools it off. I always want to heat down on it. I'm not really hitting the guard. It won't mess the temper up on the knife as long as you just don't do this, repeatedly over and over and over. I've checked the temper on the knife more than once doing this, but usually it does fine. Like I said, this is not a pretty process, and I'm really not as good at it as a lot of the guys. Mitch Jenkins, that taught me how to do this, absolutely is a pro about it. I mean, I've watched him do them that I was having trouble with. I've watched him just walk up and do it in seconds. If anybody wants to try to do this at home, I would suggest getting a heat gun. I think that everybody has better luck with the heat guns than they do with the torch. I don't have a heat gun that will go that high, and since I just started doing this type of knife, I don't have one yet, but I probably will. The other tip is to make sure you try to get these guards up and down. You want to get them level the best you can, because the more level you got, the less that stuff wants to run one direction or another. You've seen on how this works out. I got this side almost immediately, and I'm still working on this other side. You see how high up on the knife it is. That's exactly what you want. I know it's ugly looking, but that's exactly what you want. You want it to be high all the way across that thing, because you're going to scrape a lot of this off, and I'll show you how to do that on a different knife. But yeah, you want to have that just all the way across. I'm trying my best to get it to layer up on there. See, I added a little more flux. It made it run just a little bit. That's what you want. Like I said, this may turn out like a soup sandwich for me. But we're giving it a shot. You can actually get too hot, especially with a torch. The reason I say that is because if it gets too hot, it won't sit anywhere. It just wants to clump up and just, it doesn't want to flow because it's so hot that it can't start sticking. So like I said, I'm new at this, and I am having trouble with this one. But I am getting it to solder. And this one has a little bit of a gap in it when I was fitting the guard. So this one definitely has to have a good solid seam, just so water and stuff won't get underneath it. And that's really all this is. It's more of a pretty thing when it really gets up there, but you really want it solid so water and everything doesn't run down behind your handles, especially if you glue your handles on. It can't get right up against that seam. But if you just screw your handles on till you can clean them and everything all the time, you don't want that water running back there all the time. It's not good on handles. But mainly, if you do this with a stag, you're never going to take it off, because if you do, you're gonna screw the stag up, because stag won't sit still for nobody. having a hard time getting it to flow, but it's alright. It is flowing, it's just not sitting exactly the way I want it. I know somebody's sitting here watching this going, my God, how bad do you do this? Okay. I think I'm going to have to try to level my knife out just a little bit more. It seems to me that I'm either getting it all on one side or all on the other. I think it's just not sitting exactly the way. Yeah, that made a. Anybody watch that? You like that adjustments? Whack it with a hammer. I know this is probably boring as mud, and I'm sorry. But knife making is such a spectacular thing to watch anyway, I'm sure. Okay, I'm going to get just a little bit more flux. Ouch, it's getting hot, buddy. All right, well, we did finally get this one, and I know I'm going to pick the camera up and show you, but if you look at it, it looks awful, doesn't it? I mean, this is the side that I was having trouble with. I mean, it looks atrocious, but you can fix this. Now, I will go ahead and get this set up. I'm going to have to switch knives and show you. This one's got some cooling to do. I kind of wait for that to set just a little bit. But you get you a good glove and loosen up your thing, and then you're going to have to just set this one to the side to cool. And okay, so that one's cooling, and here's one I just did. It's already cooled. It's already ready to go. So you're going to put it in your vise. Now, I know this is where it seems really odd. This is the part that no one really believes me. But you've already hardened your knife. Your knife's hard. Now, you're going to take these little brass rods that I told you you're going to sharpen. And you're going to start, and you're just going to start peeling. You're just going to chisel that down. I told you, it looks crazy, but it actually doesn't scratch your knife up or your guard. You know, really, it doesn't. First time I seen it done, I was just astounded. I was like, wow, you talk about all that work you put in it for nothing. But it really doesn't scratch it up much. And you really do take off quite a bit of metal doing this. And it's what I said. You want it to pull up. You want it to be big and thick up on that thing. Because that's... this is the way you're going to clean it up. And you get these little push rods. Now this one's a little longer. It's same thing though, but it's this one's just a smaller rod, and I can get down in the groove just a little better. And you don't try to take like a ton off at a time. Just get it till it isn't big old clumps. Get it down till it's against the knife. And try to make it look nice. Now, I'll have to say that this is the bad part about making this kind of knife. You can grind these blades, you can make these handles, you can do about anything you want to do with what you have at home. You can do these knives with a file without any trouble. I've made many knives with nothing but a file. You can do the guards almost with a file. Just about all of it could be done with a file. You'd have to start drilling a bunch of holes, but you could do most of this with a file. Most of your tools at home, you could do this. The last step in this to make this look pretty nice, you have to have a buffer. It doesn't have to be a great buffer, but it does have to be kind of a fast turning buffer, because you really kind of need to use a stiff compound. And if you're not using a good stiff compound, the worst problem with it is it just never gets this excess off the guard, because there's stuff on this guard way out here. Yes, you're scraping most of it off, but it will smooth it out and it will make it look so much better if you have a decent buffer. But by no means could you not do a lot of this cleanup with a Dremel if you tried hard. I think that it could be done. I just don't know that I had the patience for it. I sit and work on one little thing a long time, but I just don't know that I could sit and do it. Okay, so now I'll take this out of here, and you can kind of see, yeah, it still looks a little boogered up, but I'll take pictures and I'll post them up after I'm done buffing it. All this off the blade will just disappear because it won't stick to the metal after you really start polishing on it. It will basically just stick down in here where you put that flux, and it, like I said, it's ugly, but that's this is what you're shooting for, is to get one to look like this, and it's kind of smooth. Now I may go over there and buff it, have to come back over here and scrape a little bit to even it out, but this is basically all you need to do to get your guard to fit on there the way it needs to be. And I'll take some pictures and show you what we've done after we get it buffed. And until then, I will say goodbye. Have a great day, everyone.